From failing to make weight to dominating fighter inside the octagon, Khamzat Chimaev has always given the fans something to talk about, and now he's given us a timeline for his return. The Boris has been out of action since September 2022. He hasn't been inside the cage for the UFC and hasn't been doing what he loves to do, but he has finally come forward and revealed his plans for the future. Chimaev took to Instagram and said that he is going to be extending his break just a little longer. We'll be back after Ramadan. The Swede is a practicing Muslim and will be observing the holy month of Ramadan.
I didn't know he's strong, in the beginning, but he did 3 rounds strong, He also did good work for that, because I work hard for everything, I never stop my training.
But he has reassured his fans that he'll be back soon after. I know it's a little disappointing to hear that he's going to be away for some more time. I was bummed out by this too. With the way he has been dominating inside the octagon, fans would definitely love to see some more action from the guy. But I'm sure he'll make good on his promise, cause he just loves fighting. I mean, look at the man. He was built for MMA, and this reflects on his record as well. He's 12-0 on his all-time professional record and 6-0 in the UFC. And Chimaev's not just taking on any fighters either. He took out guys like Gilbert Burns and Kevin Holland in his last 2 fights. Tell me that's not impressive. And much like you see with these Dagestani or Chechnyan guys, he doesn't only wrestle either. This man can brawl. In fact, he loves doing it, and he's extremely good at it too. But if that fails, he can always resort to this stifling ground game. I'm telling you guys, Chimaev has dominated ever since his debut in 2020. Currently, he boasts a total number of strikes landed to an absorbed ratio of 254 to 2. That's just insane. And to top it all off, he holds the record for the fastest 3-fight winning streak in the UFC. I mean, his first 2 fights in the promotion were just 10 days apart. Just 10 days. That's just how good of a killer he is. But that doesn't mean he hasn't been challenged. The toughest adversary he has faced so far has been Burns. This is his only fight where he hasn't been able to knock out or submit his opponent. And I don't mean only in the UFC either. I mean in his entire career. Torino really showed Khamzat how tough he is. He pushed the Swede to his extremes and went the distance with him.
I fight anyone, it doesn't matter. My goal here is to become a champion and fight the toughest guys. And the odds against you, everybody's against you.
At times, Chimaev even looked in trouble during that fight. That's something very few people in the world have managed to do, but Khamzat just loved it. He enjoyed every second of it. After the fight, even before the results were announced, he could be seen praising and thanking Burns. For a fighter that loves playing the bad guy, Khamzat sure does respect his opponent. He doesn't have any problem fighting anyone. In fact, he has his eyes set on the title, or should I say, titles. But there's something that he has trouble doing, and that's making weight. Khamzat has missed weight several times, and sometimes he has done that by enormous margins. I mean, the last time he was over 8 pounds above the 170-pound margin. That's a lot. He was supposed to fight Nate Diaz in September last year, but due to this, he had to settle for a catchweight bout at 180 pounds against Holland. To be honest, I'm not that surprised. Khamzat belongs in the middleweight, if not higher. He is too huge for the welterweight division. No wonder he fails to make weight as often as he does. Maybe it's time that he calls it quits as a 170-pounder and moves up a division. There are plenty of challenges for him at 185. And the best part is, he knows that. If you've heard Chimaev's interviews, then you know he wants to fight the middleweight guys. He has called out the current champ, Alex Pereira, for a fight. I don't know if Dana's going to allow that to happen anytime soon, cause the Brazilian was locked in for the rematch against Israel Adesanya as soon as he won that belt. And I don't think he has earned the right to be accepting fights on his own yet. But Khamzat, being who he is, just doesn't care. If he can't fight the Poatan or Izzy, he'll fight the next best thing. And by that, I mean Robert Whittaker, of course. Last month, the Boars issued a challenge to the former champ. Good guy versus bad guy. Let's make it happen. To me, this was surprising at first, because previously Chimaev said that he doesn't want to fight Bobby Bobby Knuckles. No, Khamzat isn't scared. He just respects Whitaker so much. He didn't want to feel bad after fighting such a good guy. Instead, he wanted to beat up bad guys like himself. Khamzat wanted to train with Rob at one point. That's how much he respects him. But I guess things have changed as none of them are getting fights. The Reaper was scheduled to fight Paulo Costa at UFC 284, but that didn't happen. After that, he was expected to appear in the Octagon in March, but all the cards were booked up this time, so he left without any opponent. Khamzat, on the other hand, has been claiming for some time now that no one wants to fight him. He claims that fighters are afraid of him and have been running away from facing him in the cage. That may be the case too. I mean, this man is a very scary athlete. So this is how the chips seem to have fallen. Don't take this the wrong way, guys. These two still respect each other a lot. That's why Whitaker chose to accept the challenge in the first place. It makes sense for both of these guys. If Bobby Knuckles manages to win, he'll cement himself as the next contender for the middleweight gold. But the same could be said if the win went to Chimaev. He has already impressed everyone with his performance at the UFC. It's just a matter of time before he got a title shot anyway. And what better way to do that than taking on the former champ? This will be a very interesting fight, guys. It may not be the main event, but it's pretty close to being one. But things are not final yet. Until Uncle Dana says it's okay, this isn't happening. I don't see him saying no to this though. This will be a big fight for the promotion, and the UFC boss loves Khamzat for the waves he's been making in 2 whole divisions. So, Dana might grant the wishes of the fight fans after all. But the head honcho of the UFC has also said that the Boars has one more chance at the welterweight. So, he might decide to match him against Colby Covington or Bilal Muhammad, and ultimately give him a shot at the welterweight belt. But then there's the issue of fighters avoiding Chimaev altogether. There is one guy who, willing, wants to fight the Swede though, and that's Shavkat Rakhmonov.
At 4 minutes, 10 seconds of the very first round, declaring the winner by knockout and still undefeated, Shavkat Nomad Rakhmonov.
He claimed that he could beat Khamzat. The Boars, of course, laughed it off as a joke. I mean, yeah, Rakhmonov has been impressive so far in the UFC, but I think he'll have to win a few more fights before he gets to call out the likes of Khamzat. I admit that it'll be an interesting fight to watch in maybe a couple of years. For now though, Chimaev has his eyes set on not 1, but 2 titles. And that's all I can tell you about Khamzat's return.